I mean, if you're not in on the con, short con or long con, there may still be some complicity. I'll have to think about that later. For now, this. It's a practice in various regions of the world to have biblical names. Overtly a practice. I don't think everyone who's naming a child Sarah is thinking about the biblical matriarch. But there are families deliberately naming their children with biblical names. People have to take a biblical name if they're ordained, a rabbi, for instance. So if someone's name is Tiffany, when they're ordained, there has to be a Hebrew name connected to the Bible. So maybe something that begins with T, maybe something else. If you go to an ordination on Fifth Avenue around 65th Street at the big Reformed temple, you'll see what I'm talking about. So if someone is named Chad, he's not going to get ordained as Chad. He's going to get ordained with a biblical name. Similarly, it was one of the things that was done with colonization. You Christianize people and they take a Christian name. Now, since Christians appropriated Hebrew scripture, that gives a whole lot of names to choose from. And then there are people who have biblical names that people don't think of as biblical, or I think most people don't, like Priscilla or Dorcas. Do you think of Dorcas as a biblical name? Because it is. What I find fascinating is that in Hawaiian culture, a culture that was colonized and Christianized, the biblical name is often the first one, and then the Hawaiian name, or the biblical name, then another ethnic ancestral name, then the Hawaiian name, then the last name. People will have multiple names. There will be a shortened version of the Hawaiian name, which usually is more than 4 or 5 syllables, and it might be shortened to 4 or 5 syllables, or 2 syllables, or 3. So the biblical name leads. And then there's a whole other thing of names that have become adopted names into a culture. So you have the name Lahela, which is the Hawaiianized form of Rachel. Or you have Malia, which is the Hawaiianized version of Mary, which then each of these names has its own trail. So the Bible, it's a good long book, especially Exodus chapter 20, verse 8, or verse 18 if you're from Mississippi. Look it up. You'll see what I'm talking about.